Welcome back to New Rockstars. I'm Erik Voss, and Marvel Studios' Fantastic Four First Steps is wrapping its production in Spain this week, and we have now confirmed independently why Fantastic Four First Steps is the perfect and only title for this film. We're going to break down all the clues in this Fantastic Fourcast, formerly known as a Fantastic Fupdate. As gross as it sounds, I still like it better. In our last forecast, in our last Fupdate, we broke down the D23 Brazil trailer footage and the official film synopsis released by Marvel Studios, including the mention of things suddenly getting very personal for the family. And from that, we speculated that Ree and Sue's kids, Franklin and Valeria Richards, are probably going to factor into the story. Well, since then, our team made a couple additional discoveries that shed light on why this movie is actually titled First Steps. Our lead editor, Joshua Hurd, clocked this. The Mission Control Flight Crew audio that we hear in the Fantastic Four sizzle reel concept trailer footage is actually the real-life audio from Jack King, the NASA Chief of Public Affairs who provided the famous announcements and commentary for the Apollo 11 mission. We hear the following excerpts over the images of Ree and Sue and Johnny and Ben suiting up in their astronaut flight suits and the Marvel 1 rocket warming up and launching.
Astronauts report it feels good. Guidance is internal. Ignition sequence starts. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
So cool! And part of why this concept trailer footage felt so emotional, in addition to Michael Giacchino's score, is that the voice of Jack King himself announcing the steps of this launch, even if most of us were too young to witness it on TV, are just baked into our collective unconscious. It was the history of mankind unfolding live in the moment that the whole world was brought together in hope to see that they're now fueling into this movie. And again, huge thanks to Joshua for spotting this. He finds stuff like this all the time, and he truly is the MVP of New Rockstars. Like every time you've loved an edit of one of our videos, or really just 80% of all the videos that have come out on this channel in the past 5 years, you've really been seeing Joshua's work as much as mine or anyone else's. So we love you, Josh.
Hey, fun boys, get the room.
Now, the director and cast even confirmed that they watched the Apollo 11 documentary from 2019 from Todd Douglas Miller, which also has a 47-minute IMAX version called First Steps Edition, which I assume is the version the cast and crew watched and where Matt Shakman sourced the Jack King audio and got inspiration even for the Fantastic Four film name. Matt Shakman and Vanessa Kirby confirmed this to Entertainment Weekly back in July after the San Diego Comic-Con Marvel panel.
And then when we all watched the Apollo 11 documentary and you see Neil Armstrong and everyone, you know, it felt very grounded, and it's kind of like, yeah, just even though there's extreme things going on and the characters go through something very life-changing, it felt very human and very real, and a really beautiful what's the right word? Jet lag, tell me how.
Extremely jet lag.
Beautiful
Jet lag.
revisit.
The word is jet lag. You know, the comic was created in the early 60s, really at the same time that the space race was starting. And so it is infused with that whole idea of just looking to the stars and dreaming of a future where we would be space travelers. And so I really wanted to take all of that great stuff from Apollo 11 and just imagine that instead of Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin, it was the Storms and Ben Grimm and Reed Richards heading off into space.
Now, you probably sensed in there Vanessa Kirby struggling to tiptoe around perhaps saying the wrong thing, maybe spoiling the wrong thing. Pedro Pascal, the one of these four actors with the most experience as the face of major nerd IP in these types of cons and junkets, jumps in to rescue her by saying jet lag, joking how these actors likely had to jump on insane flights and red eyes to make it to San Diego to get there for this Comic-Con. But I also see it as a possible joke about maybe some time dilation experienced by this flight crew. Matt Shakman told our colleague Brandon Davis at San Diego Comic-Con that while the Neil Armstrong space race was the general meaning of the term First Steps, that there was a more direct meaning of the words that Shakman couldn't talk about.
First of all, tell me what that title kind of we should take away from that.
Well, I mean, there's definitely a few meanings to it that I can't really talk about, but there's also the general meaning, which is like space race, 60s, Neil Armstrong, you know.
In past videos, I speculated that this could also refer to the first steps of a child, which depending on your kid's development usually occurs around 12 months of age, give or take a few months, kiddo. Not talking about you. Take your time. Around this time is when crawling babies are still working on those motor skills. First steps could be referring to baby Franklin Richards. In the last Fupdate video, I brought up the theory that Galactus is targeting Earth for baby Franklin, and that's why this movie gets so personal. And I cannot give you too many details on this, but I can just say that we have been contacted by someone connected to production who gave us kind of a thumbs up that this might be accurate. Feige, retract your drones. Look, you've been watching New Rockstars long enough to know how much we love Raycon earbuds. Part of why we love them so much is because Raycon doesn't need a Black Friday or Cyber Monday sale for you to be able to get top-of-the-line earbuds at an affordable price. But for Black Friday, they are doubling down and offering our viewers up to 30% off site-wide. It's an absolutely bonkers deal. And if you've been looking for a new pair of earbuds, you should get a pair of Raycons. So Raycon's everyday earbuds have a 32-hour battery life, so you're never running out of juice when you need it most. If you forget and they do die, you can use the quick charge function to get 90 minutes of use out of 10 minutes of charging time. Plus, they come with active noise cancellation, which can turn even the noisiest coffee shop into a place where you can get some work done when you're out of the house. You can also customize your Raycons to fit your personality with a protective case cover. See, I got Galaxy because, you know, holding the cosmos in the palm of my hand makes me feel like some kind of galactic being. It just looks so cool. It's time to save for Black Friday. Go to buyraycon.com/newrockstars today to get up to 30% off site-wide. That's right, you'll get up to 30% off everything on Raycon's website when you go to buyraycon.com/newrockstars. And once again, thanks Raycon for sponsoring this episode. But this led me to just curiously rewatch that Entertainment Weekly interview, and actually there are several moments that seem now to be clues pointing to exactly that. Like there was this moment between Ebon Moss-Bachrach and Pedro Pascal. Take a look.
They're also infused with a lot of light blue.
Well, something we can't talk about? No.
I've decided we can't.
That was always so weird to me. Like, why did Pedro cut off Ebon? Like, Ebon didn't seem to be saying anything. We saw the sizzle reel footage. We saw that their suits were blue. Was Pedro just like joking around? Was it some kind of like bro bullshit between the cast members? If so, why did Ebon seem so taken aback by it and just kind of got quiet for the rest of the interview until Pedro, sensing that shift, later said, "Oh, I agree with Ebon. Ebon, cut." Like as if a kind of nonverbal, "Ebon, get back in here." And then I realized it. Oh, when Ebon said infused with a lot of light blue, Ebon probably was just talking about their suits, but Pedro probably thought he was talking about the color of baby blue, as in a color associated with the nursery of a baby boy, which who knows, could be something that plays a big role in the production design and the costume design of this movie. Also, when you watch the rest of the interview, it is so clear that Pedro and Vanessa are avoiding talking about the fact that Reed and Sue probably have a kid in this movie.
But what can you actually share about this relationship?
It's a real one. A real marriage, a real family, and so it isn't perfect.
Yeah, he says a real marriage and then adds on top of that a real family. And then by saying it isn't perfect, I think that's it gets personal that the synopsis was talking about. So all of this in context helps explain what Matt Shakman was really talking about when this Fantastic Four movie will be different from the ones that we've seen before.
In what ways will we get to see, if at all, them pre-superpowers? Like, is that really where things start here?
I mean, one of the things we decided early on was not to do an origin story. But one of the ways we're making our own thing is we're not telling the story of them going up and being changed and starting our story. You know, there's a lot of well-known narrative that leads into that moment, right? And then you're making up your new story starting basically at the end of the first act. And we thought, well, let's just start this thing off on a completely new foot. And so we are beginning after that.
A new foot. Again, this idea of baby steps comes back into the talking points. The way Matt Shakman is updating this Fantastic Four story to make it not an origin story is by making Marvel's first family a multi-generational family. In the multiple cinematic Fantastic Four casts we have gotten so far, none of them have had kids until now. And by partnering with Michael Giacchino to compose the score, Marvel Studios is sending a pretty clear signal that they want to do a live-action version of what is truly the best Fantastic Four type story we've gotten, Pixar's The Incredibles from 2005, in which Brad Bird unambiguously modeled the Parr family on the Fantastic Four in terms of power sets and family dynamics, and just put them in red instead of blue. And that movie used Michael Giacchino's music to give it that extra sizzle. And a key component to the Parr family, especially in the surprise twist in the final act, was the sudden, very close to home threat toward the baby of the family, Jack. Franklin Richards is an Omega level mutant and a reality warper who plays a very important role with the Future Foundation Chen, and with restoring the multiverse after the existential threat of the Secret Wars vent. Galactus is a cosmic being who survived the destruction of the 6th iteration of the universe into the 7th by gestating inside of a cosmic egg, and so he has seen what it really looks like when a universe is destroyed and restarts. Maybe Franklin Richards is the anchor being of the Fantastic Four's alternate universe, and Galactus needs to take the boy to disrupt that multiversal life cycle and gain control over it. So to recap, the theory is that Galactus is targeting Earth specifically to get Franklin Richards, and by refusing to give the baby over, the Fantastic Four will risk the destruction of the entire planet. In past videos, I've scratched my head over the scale of Galactus since he was looking through the windows of the Baxter building when he's often depicted as larger than a planet, but others have pointed out that Galactus does have the ability to regulate his size, so I guess that might solve that. We should just remember that Matt Shackman clarified that this is not an origin story, but by using Apollo 11 as a reference, it is still a story about astronauts looking to the stars to dream. Concept trailer footage shows both the Fantastic Four suiting up as astronauts when Ben Grimm is in his normal human form, and an additional shot of the 4 of them marching across the tarmac to the launch pad, and you can see in that shot that Ben is now visibly in the bulky orange rock form of the Thing. So that means they are going to go back out to space, and I think that second mission is the one that will alert Galactus about the existence of Earth and of Franklin Richards. So the film will be called First Steps as the Fantastic Four make their first steps into the cosmos, while at home the first steps of their child will be a thundering alarm to Galactus, Devourer of Worlds. Comment down below with your thoughts on this theory. Follow me at EA Voss, subscribe to New Rockstars and all 3 of our channels for breakdowns and news coverage of everything you love. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Fantastic Fiend!